Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Profit podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Profit. Hey folks, I just turned 60. Still wrapping my head around that. And despite the fact that I just turned 60, last week I found myself at a Forbes 30 under 30 conference in a room where I could easily have been mistaken for somebody's mother. Let's be honest. I was the right age to be just about everyone's mother in that room. Half my age, across the board. If I'm going to be honest, I was asked at some point if I was someone's mom, but that's another story. Anyway, I've got my 30 under 30 water bottle, so I'm staying hydrated. And let's talk about it. The event kicks off with a Don Toliver concert. But first, the warm-up act, a DJ who starts at 9 p.m. Now, I'm already doing the math on my bedtime, 9 p.m. And I'm standing there thinking, shouldn't I be in my pajamas? I mean, feet up, glass of wine, maybe a touch of scotch instead. Either way, I'm standing there. It's a crowd, and they're all singing along with that DJ, word for word, like almost every lyric. And me, I'm over here feeling wildly accomplished if I recognize even one track. I'm laughing and I'm having fun, but also just a little aware that I might be the only person in the room Googling, who is this DJ? And suddenly I'm thinking, is odd duck still a thing people say? Oh my gosh, am I officially aging myself every time I open my mouth? Now, don't get me wrong. I was rocking a look. Over-the-knee boots with a modest heel that carefully took into consideration the fact that we were going to be standing for this concert. And I had a lace blazer over a short dress, so I looked pretty sharp. My hair was into tightly woven braids, which completely confused me. It's such a different look. I came from an age when big hair was a thing. Remember the 80s and the 90s. The bigger the hair, the closer to God. Either way, the kids tell me I look great, but I still feel, well, a little out of place. And then after all that, Don Toliver, the headliner, comes on. Now, if you don't know who that is, you and I are in the same club. But judging by the crowd around me, he's a big deal. And like a chart-topping, streaming everywhere, big deal. So I looked him up. And apparently he broke out on something called Astro World, which I'm told is a huge cultural moment. I still don't really understand that world. What is an Astro World? Anyway, let's just say he's a soundtrack of a generation kind of deal. And I didn't know why, but obviously he mattered to them. And I started wondering, is this how my grandparents felt watching Elvis Presley on TV? You know, gyrating his hips and scandalizing the world. Is this how my parents felt when I was blasting Madonna? Sorry, back to the concert. The bass was unreal. And listen, if I had kidney stones, the sheer vibration of that bass would have taken care of them. No problem. Pretty sure it rearranged a few organs while I was at it. That volume, the energy, the beat was incredible. But I'm standing there thinking, well, what is he saying? And I'm looking around. Everyone else has got their phones up. They know the lyrics. They know, what is it they say, when the beat is about to drop? And I'm just taking it in. I'm pressed up against a guardrail, trying to move to the music while also trying not to get whacked in the face by the very enthusiastic young woman standing next to me. She wasn't very tall, so her hand was swaying dangerously close to my face with her phone in it. I was trying to catch a word, a phrase, something I could hold on to, and knowing this isn't my soundtrack. And also knowing that's okay. Not everything has to be your soundtrack, but it's still worth experiencing at least once. And if I'm being honest, there were a few moments that pulled me in. And all of this happening just before my 60th birthday. 60. Whew. And somehow, standing in that crowd, half my age, at a concert that starts at my bedtime, I learned a lot. And I want to share those lessons with you. Now, my running joke during the conference was, I thought this was 30 over 30, which makes 60. So I'm exactly where I belong. It was a good icebreaker. It explained why this mom figure was in the midst of this crowd. It would have been easy to decide that I didn't belong there. And if I'm being honest, there were a few moments when every instinct in me wanted to run for the door. You know that feeling when you start scanning for the exit, when you convince yourself, I've seen enough. Can I go now? But really, that's just a symptom of your discomfort. It's easy in certain spaces to think that we're too old, too out of touch, too something. But before that summit ended, I had a chance to talk with one of the 30 under 30 honorees. And even he admitted that concert was, let's just say, a lot. And that's when it hit me. We're so quick to label something as not for us or as an age issue, when sometimes it's just not our thing. And those are not the same. Let's be honest. If I invited those Don Tolliver fans to a black tie event with a string quartet, some of them might feel a bit out of place too. Here's what matters. I was in the room. I said yes. I showed up in a space where I wasn't the obvious fit. Someone had offered me a ticket. And at first I did say, 30 under 30, that doesn't sound right. But he encouraged me to come and have new experiences. So I stayed anyway. And you can do that too. Because leveling up, because that's my new word for going into a new decade, leveling up isn't about shrinking into what's familiar. It's about expanding what's possible and trusting that you belong there simply because you showed up. And this is important no matter your age. Because a wonderful bucket list life doesn't come from staying where you fit. It comes from stepping into places that stretch you and trusting yourself enough to stay. Talked to a lot of kids that weekend. Kids, people under 30. Remember when you thought you were grown up when you were 30? Wow. Anyway, another one I spoke with, and she wasn't an honoree. She was a ticket holder just like me, about half my age, attending, learning. This young woman works in a corporate job, earning a paycheck. And in that room, I got the sense she felt less legitimate. She told me she felt like a fraud because she looked around and so many people that she saw were trying to create their own jobs. People calling themselves entrepreneurs as if that's a shortcut to not having a boss and building easy wealth. And she started to wonder if she was in the wrong room. I looked at her and I said, "Of course you belong. We need people doing their best everywhere, in businesses and nonprofits, inside organizations that already exist. Let's call out the problem. Somewhere along the way, we started to glorify one path, as if being a self-starter is the only way to matter, as if building something from scratch is more valuable than improving something that already exists. But most of the world runs on people who make what's already there better. Leadership counts even when your name isn't on the door. Having more money doesn't necessarily mean you're smarter. Those are just things that somehow seem to have manifested themselves as truth. We talked about truth last week. If you didn't listen to that episode, go back and catch it again, or catch it for the first time. Some of the most impactful people I know walk into existing systems and make them better, quietly, consistently, powerfully. And we need people to step into systems and make them better, to lead, to question, to improve what's already there. Some of the most important lessons I've ever learned, and I suspect you as well, didn't come from being in charge. They came from just being in the midst of things. You know, those jobs that challenged you, maybe the ones you said sucked, the ones that frustrated you because you wanted it to be better and it wasn't. The ones that showed you exactly what kind of leader you want to be and the kind of leader you didn't want to be. I am so grateful for the jobs I held in my 20s and 30s. I may not have enjoyed them all, but they taught me great lessons. And I told her that. And I watched it land. Her shoulders dropped. She took in a breath, like she'd been holding on to something tight and finally let it go, like relief moved through her. And maybe that's the real shift. Think about it. Being the only one in the room like you isn't a problem. It's a perspective. When you're surrounded by people who think just like you, move like you, see the world the way you do, you don't actually learn very much. But when you're the one who feels a little different, that's where the growth is. That's where the awareness sets in. That's where you start to see things you wouldn't see otherwise. And suddenly, what once felt impossible doesn't feel so far away. Here's what surprised me. Those kids, the ones who could not believe I was almost twice their age, or sometimes more than twice their age, they didn't see me as out of place. They saw me as interesting. They were curious. They asked questions. They wanted my stories. They wanted perspective. Some of them told me they were going to listen to the podcast or send it to their moms. And I thought, this is how it's supposed to work. We're not meant to stay in our own lanes. We're meant to learn from one another. They're showing me what's new, teaching me things on my phone and all sorts of things. And I'm showing them what lasts. There was another moment another conversation with another under 30 that flipped this whole thing for me. The young man I was talking to produces videos. He interviews millionaires and has built a whole production team around it. I've looked him up on Instagram and I'm now following him, so hopefully I'll understand this soon. Anyway, in our conversation, we're talking about Vegas and how easy it is to get there from Phoenix and the shows I've seen. And I start telling him about one of my more recent concerts in Vegas when I saw Barry Manilow. And on his face, I see nothing. No recognition, no connection. He had no idea what I was talking about. Now, I could have gotten annoyed. I could have thought, how do you not know Barry Manilow? But then I realized he doesn't have personal memories of a century that started with a 1. To him, the 1900s, well, that's ancient history. He's a product of this millennium. Blech. So instead, I smiled. And I said, I know you know some of his music. Then I started to sing. I am stuck on Band-Aid brand because Band-Aid stuck on me. Immediate recognition on his face. His smile was instant. For my follow-up, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. But now he was a little confused. So I explained, that's how Manilow started. That's where he made his first money. He was writing advertising jingles that people still know today. That's permanence. That's impact. And once I had the bridge, I could explain. And I told him how Manilow topped the charts with pop hits in the 1970s and 1980s. And those of you who know Manilow know he writes the songs that make the whole world sing. And I told that young man his songs are probably still sung in karaoke bars every night. What I realized in that moment is that we can expand someone else's world if we're willing to meet them where they are. Not only that, it works both ways. I wasn't out of place at that concert. I just didn't share the same reference points. And our choice in those moments is really simple. You can compare, or you can get curious. Comparison says, I don't belong here. Curiosity says, well, what can I learn here? Comparison will shrink you, but curiosity expands you and your world. And this isn't just about concerts. It's about walking into a meeting where you feel like the least experienced person in the room. Starting something new when everyone else seems ahead. Or the converse, you walk into a room and you already know what should happen, but you have to bring everyone else up to where you are. Say yes to something you don't fully understand yet. That's the moment you either compare or get curious. Don't scan the room for all the ways you don't measure up. Lean in. Ask better questions. And I'll be honest, there were moments at that concert where comparison for me was loud, but curiosity is what kept me there. Okay, what am I missing here? What do they love about this? What would it look like to just have the experience without needing to understand all of it? Not everything in life is meant to be mastered. Some things are just meant to be experienced. Maybe that's part of entering the Sassy 60s. Now, I'm only a few days in, but here's what I know. I don't need to know everything. I certainly don't need to fit in perfectly, but I do need to be willing to show up no matter what. Whatever phase of life you're in, it comes down to this: show up, stay curious, and refuse to shrink. And don't ask for permission to be in the room. Just be present. So let go of that, should I be home in my pajamas, as comforting as they sound, and start asking, where else in my life am I being invited into something unexpected? Where else in my life am I deciding I don't belong? Where else in my life am I giving up before I even give myself the chance to show up? And what if this is what 60 looks like? You can have your own version. It doesn't have to be me. Remember, I'm the imperfect prophet. I'm not trying to teach you how to be me. I'm trying to encourage you to live your life fully. And I want everyone to be a little bit out of place, a little loud, a little unsure what the lyrics are, but fully, unapologetically in it. Sign me up. Even if I don't know the lyrics, even if it starts at 9 p.m., can someone else drive so I don't fall asleep behind the wheel? Even if I'm Googling the DJ, because this isn't about age, it's about you showing up. Welcome to the Sassy 60s, or whatever level you're stepping into right now. And as always, if this episode made you think of someone, share it with them. Send them the link. Better yet, listen together, share a beverage, and talk about your next move. Stay hydrated. And until next week, fill each day with wonder. Welcome to the wonderful bucket list life.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation. Ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends. Join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.